So I have a trick to help you get out of writer's block, get out of a deep production rut. And I figured out a method that works really, really well. The method is super simple, so I'm just going to tell you up front. And then in order to know if it works, the best thing for you to do is just try it. So just give it a shot and you'll see the results. So that said, the method is called Loop a Day. Some people call it coffee and beats. Some people call it 10 minutes a day. I call it Loop a Day. And the idea is, starting either today or tomorrow, you're going to give yourself 10 days. And every single one of these days, you're going to sit down and write for 10 minutes. You're going to write a loop, or you're going to write an idea. You're going to write a beat. It doesn't matter, but you're going to give yourself 10 minutes each day for the next 10 days. And you're going to sit down and write and commit to that. So that's it. It's that simple. You don't need to know that much more. This is what you do, and this should really help you break out of a creative rut. That said, and I'm going to explain what I think the psychology is behind this, why I think it works so well. So, firstly, when you're in a rut, when you're having trouble finding the time and energy to write, and you're not having inspiration, and you're spending a lot of time sitting and thinking about writing and not doing it much, I think one thing behind that is you build up a lot of expectation behind your writing process where it needs to come out good. And there's a lot of pretense that's kind of loaded in. And then when you finally find the energy, this one time this month, and you sit down and you write, and it comes out kind of shitty, and then that discourages you. The issue here is that you're not writing very much, so you're not working out your creative muscles. You're not building them. You're not getting much done. So you're probably kind of rusty, and it's not that surprising that sitting down and writing this one time this month didn't work out that well. So you wind up in this negative feedback loop where you expect your music to be perfect, you're not doing it enough, you're not practicing it enough, and you keep reinforcing this rut where you feel like you're not good enough. So a big thing changes when you take on this daily practice and you decide to sit down and write for 10 days straight. Is that expectation gets kind of washed away. Maybe it'll be there at first. You sit down, you write, maybe it comes out good, maybe it comes out shitty. But it doesn't really matter because the next day you're going to sit down and you're going to write again. And then maybe that one comes out good. Maybe it comes out a little better. Maybe it's still kind of crappy. But that's okay because the next day you're going to sit down and you're going to write again. And so on and so on and so on. And you get into this state where you're not approaching your writing process with this has to fucking work idea that I find that I have in my head when I'm in a rut in the past. Instead, you're approaching it with this sort of optimism that comes from this could be cool, this might not be cool, but it's okay because I'm going to keep doing it, so what comes out comes out. And having that looseness when you write really helps your creative process start to flow better. There are a couple different analogies I like to use to describe this process. One good one that makes a lot of sense is exercise. Somebody close to me recently got out of a long and deep rut where they weren't doing enough with themselves. And they had some stuff happen in their life and had a revelation. And then within a couple weeks, they started exercising every day, got a job, started moving forward again. And they got a lot of energy. And they described this experience to me as in the past when they were in this rut, they didn't want to exercise because they felt that they had a very limited amount of energy and they didn't want to spend that small amount of energy on something they didn't like doing. But then coming back after having this revelation and changing their lifestyle, they realized that exercising gives them energy. The more they exercise, the better they feel throughout the day, so the more energy they have to do more stuff later. I think the same thing applies to music, where it feels like you only have so much bandwidth to do it when you're in a rut, but then when you just make yourself start doing it and you start to make it more natural for yourself, you start to see it with a sense of optimism because you're going to keep coming back to it and you're starting to see cool stuff happen. Another benefit that occurs when you start to take on a daily practice is it allows you space to distance yourself from the initial creation high. Let me explain what I mean by that. When you're writing music, I feel like there are two different ways that you experience your own music. The first one is when you're writing it, you get this kind of high where it sounds really awesome and you're very much in it, and you have a very subjective experience of it. And then a lot of the time you step away and you come back later and you go, oh, this kind of sounds like shit. Or like the next track you write, you go, okay, well, this is now my best track, not that last one. The last one's just okay. And I would describe this as this honeymoon period that you're in when you're writing. And when you step away from what you're doing, and then listen to other stuff and get fresh ears and come back to it, you have a much more sober, objective view of the sound. For example, you're writing day one, you think it's awesome, and then you finish your 10 minutes, and then the next day you write day two, you think it's pretty cool, you finish your 10 minutes, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. By day 7, you go back and you check on day 1, and you go, oh, that was okay, but it's not really worth sticking with. And you check on day 2, and you go, oh, this is sick. And you now have like an objective viewpoint that you can look at the music that doesn't involve that initial high. Another benefit to doing this daily practice is letting go of your attachment to a genre, at least temporarily. To expand on that, myself and I think a lot of people attach ourselves to a specific genre that we want to identify as our sound, which is a good thing, and tend to obsess over it. For example, I'm like more often than not focused on like deep minimal house and trying to make this sound as good as I possibly can. If you take on a daily practice and write every single day for at least 10 days, it's easy to let go of that genre attachment. Do a couple days of deep minimal house or whatever, and then you get kind of bored of it and you go, okay, well, I need to like slow it down and write some down tempo, or I'm going to try some dubstep or something like that. And break out of your genre box. And not only is it easy to break out of your genre box, but you feel inspired to break out of your genre box because you don't want to write the same thing every day for 10 days. On the one hand, it is beneficial to have a sound. Like you want to have a specific concept and identity that you're working towards and making better and better and better. However, it's also very beneficial to spend some time breaking out of that because you learn all kinds of stuff you wouldn't otherwise learn when you're attempting other genres and you're trying out different tempos and different moods, and you can take those foreign skills and reincorporate them into your main sound later. One reason in the past that I wouldn't have done this is I used to avoid having too much unfinished material laying around. I wasn't finishing enough stuff, so I thought that the solution to that was to force myself to finish almost everything I started. That's bad. I spent a lot of time making bullshit because I was making myself finish stuff that didn't need to be finished. What I've learned through this practice is it's totally fine to have lots of unfinished music laying around that you're never gonna finish. That's how you practice and get better, is you write stuff that doesn't sound good, put some time into it, make it as good as you can get it, discard it, and move on. And if you wind up with 35 one-minute demos that don't sound that good and 10 demos that are worth working on and you make into tracks, that's totally fine. So to touch back a little bit on what I was talking about distancing yourself from the initial creation high, is another related benefit of having a lot of tracks you're working on, is it's a great way to deal with ear fatigue. Now, I'm not sure about you guys, but for me, ear fatigue is a huge hurdle in writing music, where I'm writing a track for a while, I'm into it. After a couple hours or a couple days, I start to become deaf to it. I can't tell if it's good or not, and any attempt I make to work on it more is completely in vain because I just don't have a fresh, objective perspective of it. So when you commit to a daily practice and write 10 demos for 10 days straight. And let's say 4 of them have legs when you come back and listen to them. So now you've got 4 tracks that you're going to work on. You start on track 1, you put 2 more hours into it for 2 days straight. You build it up a good amount. You've got 2 full minutes that sound tight, but you're getting tired of it and you can't hear it that well anymore, so you need to take a break. So you move to track 2. Do this same thing, spend a couple hours or a couple days on it. It's sounding good, but you're going deaf to it. Put it down, move to track 3, and so on and so on. So when you have a handful of tracks laying around, it's really helpful to fight ear fatigue, because then you can kind of continually work and continually have fresh ears. So I've found it to be really beneficial to have a shitload of demos that I'm interested in sitting on deck at most times, so I can bounce around and around and around and around and seldom find myself sick of the music I'm writing. So the final point I'm going to make is a concept I like to call practice begets motivation. To elaborate, in the past when I've been in a rut, and I'm guessing this is similar with some of you guys out there, one of the issues is you're sitting around and you're waiting to become inspired. You're waiting for inspiration to strike. What's going to move me to write something beautiful? And it doesn't happen that often. And that's problematic, because you wind up not practicing much and not getting better if you're waiting for something to bloom inside of you and make you want to write. That's coming from a state where you think that motivation will lead to practice. So what I'm saying, practice begets motivation, is that the opposite is true. When you start to write despite whether you're feeling motivated or not, and you start to practice and you start to put things on paper and you do it a lot, you start to accidentally create cool shit, and you get into a creative flow where exciting ideas start to come out more naturally. If you're writing all the time, the inspiration and motivation that you were otherwise looking for when you're in a rut comes way more often, because you're sending out ideas, you're bouncing them off the wall, they're bouncing back, they're bouncing around in your head, they're creating more ideas, and you're living in a creative world. So the practice alone of creating a habit is what causes the inspiration to come. Practice begets motivation, and not the other way around. I think that's one of the best summarizing ways to encompass this whole idea that I'm talking about. So I'm going to end it with that. I will give a brief history of my personal experience with this practice. I started going to a music school in Los Angeles about 4 years ago. And the first thing they did when we got to class, the first day, they said, for the next 7 days, go home and write for 10 minutes. And after doing that for 7 days, all of the stuff I'm talking about now, like, it basically clicked. I'm like, holy shit, I have to keep doing this. This is completely breaking me out of all the different boxes that I was stuck in. I wound up doing that practice a loop a day for the next year. I refined it to 5 days a week, after a couple of weeks, because time. But I stuck with it for at least a year, and it was really effective and really helpful, and I grew a lot during that period of time. And then there have been multiple times since then where life has happened and I've gotten into new ruts. And after a month or two, I'll go, I need to do a loop a day. And I'll do 10 days, or I'll commit to 30 days. And it's always super effective. It always knocks me right out of the rut, and it just gets my gears going again. So from experience, I highly recommend this. I hope that you guys give it a shot. I'm curious if anybody tries it and has any experiences they'd like to share or is stoked on it. So please feel free to give me your feedback. I hope it helped you out. Have a kick-ass day. Until next time, goodbye.